Hello, friends. Welcome to the Motivation Broadcast. This is part one of a series I'm going to be doing, and the title of this series is Yahuwah Does Not Hear Sinners. Let me say that again. Yahuwah does not hear sinners. There's been a false teaching and a false doctrine that has been plaguing the religious institutions and local congregations, and that is that anyone, no matter who they are, whether saved or sinner, can cry out to the Father and he will hear them, even though they live a lifestyle full of iniquity and full of sin. And this is a big problem, my friends, because what it does is lower one into a false sense of security and to believe that whatever they're doing is okay. They could be shacking up. They could be living a homosexual lifestyle. They could be liars, thieves, cheats, no good, anything they want. And they can still pray, and that Yahuwah will hear their prayer. It's a very dangerous concept also, not to mention that it goes totally against what the scriptures teach us. So I'm going to get this verse out of the way very quickly here, because I know many have commented to me when I have made this same claim, from the scriptures, that John 3:16 covers everyone. So let me read that John 3:16 and just get this out of the way real quick. Okay? John 3:16 reads as follows: For Yahuwah so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. Now, when you read this, my friends, without any teaching and any in-depth study, it looks like he's talking about everyone. But this verse does not pertain to everyone. It reads as follows: For Yahuwah so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, listen, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish. Not the whole world. Whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. Glory be to the Most High. This is good news, my friend, because there's no way you can believe in the Father except the Ruach HaKadosh draws you to the Father. Remember, John 6, no man can come to me, can come to the Father, except he be drawn by the Ruach. See, there's no man that can come. In other words, we're not smart enough. We're not wise enough. We don't have the inner desire. Remember, all mankind was born into sin after the fall. So we don't have this insight to come to the Father. We must be drawn to the Father. Okay? Well, let's go on over to, let's look at Matthew real quick. Let's look at Matthew chapter 1 and verse 21, and that supports John 3:16. Remember, I said it was not everyone in the world. It's whosoever believeth in him shall not perish. Okay, look at Matthew chapter 1 and verse 21. It says as follows: And she shall bring forth a son, and thou shalt call his name Yahushua, for he shall save, listen, his people from their sins. You see what that reads? He shall save not the world, not everybody in the world, for he shall save, listen, his people from their sins. The word teaches us that my sheep hear my voice and they follow me. So Yahushua's sheep, we hear his voice and we follow him. Well, what about the rest of the people? Who do they follow? They follow the devil, the wicked one, the evil one. Okay? So we have to stop teaching that we clump everyone together. Because what that does is that lures one into a false sense of security. And those that are unsaved deserve to know the truth, or else they'll be dead in their sins. They'll die in their lifestyle. Glory be to his name. They'll die that way, with the crosses around their neck, still living a lifestyle full of iniquity. praying to their false gods, their false teachers. Amen. Okay, so let's look a little bit deeper. Now, I made the statement in the beginning already. I said Yahuwah does not hear the prayers of the unsaved. He doesn't hear the prayers of the sinner. All right, so let's look at a very familiar verse. Let's go to John chapter 9, the Gospel of John chapter 9. And in the Gospel of John chapter 9, it was the story of the blind man that was healed by Yahushua. And then the people heard it and they brought them to the Pharisees. And once he got to the Pharisees, his parents and everything got involved. But he got to the Pharisees, they began to question him. And they began to question the authority of the one he claims healed them. Okay? He was blind and then he could see. You know the story. So look at what he says here in John chapter 9 and verse 31. He says, "Now we know that Yahuwah heareth not sinners." Do you see that? Let me read it again. "Now we know that Yahuwah heareth not sinners, but if any man be a worshiper of Yahuwah, and doeth his will, him he hears." Glory be to his name. So he's connecting his people to ones that have worshiped Yahuwah, okay, and do the will of Yahuwah. You can't separate those two. You can't claim to worship the Father, but don't do his will. And that's what we have running rampant today. We have many of those who claiming to follow Yahushua. They're claiming to worship Yahuwah and be a child of Yahuwah, but they don't follow Yahuwah and do his will. Well, that simply means you're not a child of his. We already read John 3:16 said, "For those whosoever believeth in him shall not perish." Matthew 1:21 said Yahushua came to save his people. Okay, she will give a birth to a son, and that son will save his people. All right, so now we see here that in John 9:31 that Yahuwah hears not the sinners. Okay, well, let's keep going. Let's look at Psalm 66 and verse 18. How about that? Let's just build a little bit foundation here. The 66th Psalm, okay, and verse 18. My friend, if you are one that has not been called out of darkness into the marvelous light by the Ruach HaKodesh, and you are praying on a regular basis, attending one of these local congregations, one of these denominations, these false denominations on a regular basis, and they're telling you that the Father can hear you from your sinful state, from your uncalled state, it's just like you filling up a balloon full of helium and letting it go inside your house. The only thing your prayer is doing is hitting the ceiling, and you got a bunch of balloons on top of your ceiling, but nothing's going through and getting up to heaven. Nothing. Because see, your lifestyle, you hadn't been called and chosen yet. You're not in the position to pray. Why? Because you're still full of sin. That's why we need true preachers in these last days to call the truth out, to bring those that are in darkness, okay, to bring them out. We need the true preacher, the true word that's not going to compromise this word, okay, in these last days. All right, let's look at the 66th Psalm and verse 18. Here it is. You ready? It says, "If I regard iniquity in my heart," listen, "Elohim will not hear me." Now, we can't make it more plain than that. Let's do it again. It says, "If I regard iniquity in my heart, Elohim will not hear me." My friends, it's simple and plain. We must be free of the lifestyle that we lived before in the old nature in order to walk in this new nature. And the only way to do that is be regenerated by the Ruach HaKodesh. That means one not just must be called, but they also must be chosen. Remember what the word says. Many are called, but it's few that are chosen. My friend, join me next week, and I'll continue this message with part 2 of Yahuwah does not hear sinners.